It looks like it's Disneyland. I don't know. Radius of 1,000 miles around here.
We did do rainbow.
Oh, we did
Rainbow Bridge.
You see that there's an unconformity there, and it's an angular one too, which is awesome.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Ellie Knows Rocks. Today I am at Lake Powell. I'm actually down Labyrinth Canyon, and over the next couple days we're going to be exploring Lake Powell via boat. We're gonna fly into the area. I'm gonna show you guys the different layers of sandstone and the faults. We're here with friends. There's gonna be some inappropriate language that I will definitely have to bleep out, but I hope you guys appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and let's go see what we find. Oh my gosh, you guys, I got up at 4:30 a.m. this morning. Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome.
We're trying to beat the heat so that we can make our 2-hour flight up to Lake Powell and not die in the plane, just of heat, nothing else, and so that we can do all this stuff. And by the way, Dan got me an early birthday gift. I'm so grateful. I don't know if some of you know, but I did share a little bit about it, that my Insta360 camera was stolen last year. And it was around the beginning of October. And that sucked really bad because I have been relying solely on my cell phone to help with the videos and do that kind of stuff. I really thought I would be able to find it, but we are absolutely positive that it was stolen out of the truck after one of our adventures when we were parked somewhere. Anyways, so I have one now, so I'll be able to do my 360 videos again, which I'm super excited about. But yay, we're gonna get going. It's a 2-hour flight. We're gonna try to do some sightseeing as best we can. Right here, we're looking at a little slip of the southeast corner of the Grand Canyon before you actually get into the park. And we're flying into an area that's known as the Grand Circle. And I just had to get a picture of this road cut because, oh my gosh, does that not look scary from the sky? I mean, to have to drive through that, muh. Now, I have always wanted to drive up and see Horseshoe Bend, but I got to see it from the sky today. I've never actually driven up here because it would be over a 6.5-hour drive one way, but in the plane, we barely spent 2 hours to get to this point. So we did a little bit of sightseeing. Now, from a geologic standpoint, Horseshoe Bend is nothing more than an extreme meander around a point of sandstone and other sedimentary rock. However, it has awe-inspired some of the greatest pictures for this area. When you usually think of Page or Lake Powell, you usually think of Horseshoe Bend. So here it is from the air. We decided to circle out and do a little bit of sightseeing of these ginormous cliffs around Lake Powell. Can you believe that these cliffs are just sandstone and limestone stacked on top of each other? Oh my gosh. I know I'll get into the geology of the area, but for the most part, all of Lake Powell and the surrounding area used to be sand dunes. That's right. These are nothing more than compact, solidified, old sand dunes that have turned into sandstone. In fact, most sandstone used to be sand dunes one way or another. Now, this is the marina that we're going to go into, and we're going to stay on our friend's houseboat. I've never been on a houseboat before, so I don't exactly know what to expect. I don't get seasick or anything, but I'm curious if you get the wobble. Anyways, here is the awesome houseboat. It's got 2 stories, it's fully stacked, and you can even swim off the back of the boat in the marina. And there's a slide. And nope, I did not use the slide. We didn't waste any time at all getting onto the water. Dave and Buffy wanted to immediately show us the beautiful lake. They've been wanting to take me up here for the last 3 years at least. One of their favorite canyons to go into is known as Labyrinth Canyon. So this is the first place that we're going today.
Really different than a lot of the other canyons we're gonna go in today.
So that's called taponi weathering. So it's where the natural salts in the air and the water get into the rock, and as the water splashes in, the salt starts to dry and expand, allowing the sandstone to weather. So when the water comes back in, any of the sand collected in the salt weathered out and erodes away. A very slow process, but it's what happens.
And then the other thing that happens during the winter is they get rain, and the rain goes down into the cracks and it freezes.
Yeah, and
it
it
expands.
Yeah, so
And
mechanical
that's
weathering.
what causes the calving of the rock.
Yeah.
Huh?
You smart. Look, he's future geologist.
Huh?
So the water temperature here was about 82 degrees. A little cold for us Arizona natives, but perfect for cooling off in the 100+ degree weather. Also, the water depth at any given time on average was 80 to 290 foot deep. Isn't that insanely crazy? That's how deep these canyons have been cut. Oh my gosh. And just for fun, at any given time, we were calling out the water depths when we saw them. If you have a natural fear of swimming in deep water, this is definitely not the place for you.
Last year we were diving off this rock. That rock right there was about 25 feet out of the water.
Really?
Yeah. It's 42 feet or 43 feet
Oh,
higher,
yeah, you can see it.
higher this year, this date today than it was last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because we got back-to-back big winters, big storms, a lot of water.
Wow.
Did I lie? Is this badass or what?
This is so killer. Oh, wow.
It looks like a big cow pie to me.
Oh, it's faulting through the rock.
You see different than we do.
Yeah, I see the whole story. Like the crack. You see this big old crack right there?
Yeah.
That's a daylighting fault. So that is a fault that has split the rock after the rock solidified, and you can see how it doesn't match, right?
Yeah.
That's
Why-
the fault. An
but
earthquake moved
why,
it
why did it wear differently on each side of the crack?
because of just the movement.
I mean, those two are moving?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, so when you get big earthquakes, big movement, it will move micro amounts. They're old. Those are old faults. Like, but if there was a giant earthquake, they'd still move. Oh, I'm getting all of it.
No, I know, but it just keeps going like this for miles. This is like at Disneyland.
This is so cool.
Wow. Like God made Disneyland for what you say?
Oh, I couldn't explain it
Oh.
like it. I can, but I might bore you.
Okay. What? Fine.
Swirly rock? The swirly rocks.
That's it.
Yep.
I love you.
Oh, look, see, I can see fault lines too.
Where?
Guess not. I thought I saw fault lines, but she said where.
Oh, there's faults over there. There's 3 of them in that rock, but there's none over here.
That vertical line right there is from water running
Just
down,
water, yeah.
like rain.
Yeah. See, they look like butt cheeks.
Is that a drip or what?
As you can see, the fun is never ending. And the 3 faults I was talking about are right here to the right. On this trip, everybody learned a lot about fault lines and joint sets and how they are very different. And I'm sure more than once it was too much information.
Honestly, this lake is its prettiest right about right now. 3580 to me, it's the prettiest this lake is.
Dave couldn't be more right. The more we drove through this canyon, the more beautiful it got. And sadly, my camera couldn't do this canyon justice. It really has to be seen with your own eyes. I was trying my hardest to capture it, but I was only as good as my camera would allow. Going into the next canyon, Face Canyon, the grandeur got even better. And I would like to apologize in advance for some of the sound on this video. Since I had to scrub out a lot of the music that was playing in the background so I wouldn't get demonetized, you can kind of see there's some artifacts, but I hope you still get the gist of it. For those that don't know, Lake Powell is a man-made lake. It is all here because of the Glen Canyon Dam, which was completed in 1963, and it created a lake 168 miles long, known as Lake Powell. But the cool part is as the lake ebbs and flows, it has 2,000 miles of shorelines that are surrounded by towering cliffs of sandstone. The oldest of these sandstones comes from the Jurassic period, approximately 230 million years ago. The canyon was carved through different erosional features by the Colorado River over about 5 million years. This area cuts through what is known as the Colorado Plateau. This amazing, vast lake allows for houseboats to pull up to any of the 2,000 miles of shoreline to have a safe and secluded area to call home for a couple weeks. Because we're in an arid area, the unique erosion features of the rock allow for a lot of calving and big rock slabs to break apart from rocks like this one, or flash floods, which create very jagged, sharp edges of the rock, and debris flows, allowing rocks to pile up along the shoreline. But the primary erosion allows the rocks to be weathered very smooth and rounded due to wind, sand, and water, and the constant flow of water and sand over the rocks. Although the process sounds like a broken record, it's actually very important to understand. Another big reason why we get these more rounded rocks is because of the original formation of how the sand got here in the first place. The base layer formations include the Moenkopi Formation, Chinle Formation, which were results of an ancient sea that covered the area. And then once the sea dried up and sand blew into the area, we got the Wingate Sandstone. Those are the oldest formations. The more recent formations of the Jurassic period include the Kayenta Sandstone, which produced those blue-black streaks that are kind of running down the walls of the canyon, also known as desert varnish. The Navajo Sandstone, which makes up the arches including the Rainbow Bridge. The light yellow-colored Entrada Sandstone. And the darker brown Carmel Formation. Above the sandstone, you can get layers of other sedimentary rock, conglomerate, and shale. As we come out of West Canyon, we're about to end our first day. And going into our second day, we're going to go into what they're going to call my favorite canyon, Cathedral Canyon. Cathedral Canyon is named such because of its huge, towering cliffs. These cliffs are made possible because of the Navajo Sandstone, the Kayenta Sandstone, and the Wingate Sandstone. All three of these formations are in the same group, and together they can result in some of the cliffs being over 2,000 feet tall. Some of the towering cliffs that we go into today are standing 400 to 500 feet above us, and the water goes down an extra 200 to 300 feet below us. The iconic portion of this canyon is right around the corner, and why it's named Cathedral Canyon. You can see all the layers of this sandstone from darker brown, red, and yellow right here. Now again, I know you're waiting to find out why this sand is actually here, when originally it was an old sea. Now the sand in this area did not come from Arizona or Utah, on which the lake borders, but instead it rode in on the winds from Wyoming and Montana. And a lot of that sand was originally transported there in rivers from the western Appalachians. And this has been proven and studied by testing the tiny zircon crystals within the quartz sand. You get some of these colors in the sandstone from hematite, goethite, and limonite that fill up the pore spaces within the quartz sand. With so many iron-bearing minerals, as they oxidize out, you get a variation of color.
This is insane.
Look at how giant that is.
And there you have your cathedral. What are the scrape lines?
This is conchoidal fracturing because it's mostly quartz. Since the sandstone is very tightly knit together and it's mostly quartz, you'll get areas that break off that have a conchoidal fracture.
Yeah, I don't think you're going in there. There's a big old rock sticking out.
Oh, bummer.
Jet Ski Canyon.
Wait a minute.
Oh.
Wait a minute.
That's getting pretty narrow in there.
That would be pushing it back.
But don't you want to know what's back?
Yeah?
Yeah.
This right here is a great example of the Kayenta sandstone that has that desert varnish that is leaching out on the rocks. And all throughout the canyon, you can see evidence of sandstone bleaching, the whiter areas, which are a representation of the lake's water level. The sandstone was never deposited as white. It would have always been red. But since the iron has been leached out due to the water pulling that iron out, you get white sandstone, or kind of more or less light pink. Now this area was the perfect opportunity for me to get in the water and go examine the sandstone in person. Meaning, I'm gonna go swim over to that rock right there and check out that canyon, which is exactly what I did. In fact, at this time, everybody was in the water. This was hands down, for sure, one of my favorite canyons, especially surrounded by so much pink sandstone. And even though we were up against a dead end, we were still in over 60 plus feet of water. Now the next stop is definitely my favorite stop on the trip. We're headed to Rainbow Bridge. This area up on this bluff right here shows a great example of colluvium, which is like alluvium, but it doesn't fall very far away from its original source. So it just means the rocks that have crumbled down came from that hill you're looking at right there. This area also shows an amazing example of the sandstone bleaching and the old water lines, as well as desert varnish washing over the sandstone. Since the sandstone does have a lot of porosity, it actually allows for water leaching at different levels in the sandstone. If you're looking at the grandeur of the height of the cliffs, you can see how these used to be gigantic sand dunes. And in fact, it is said that the sand dunes here would have overtowered anything that we would see in the Sahara Desert. Could you you have imagined walking through Utah and Arizona on sand dunes just like the Sahara? And one theory for the possibility of the cliffs breaking so sheerly is because of old fault lines or possible fractures from old faults in the area. Now, the little area right at the Rainbow Bridge parking has a rest area and a big long dock that you can't take your boat back to, but you can tie up to the beginning. Well, the three of us, Dan, me, and Buffy, decide that we are going to take the over mile-long hike in the heat to go see the Rainbow Bridge. It's an iconic sacred landmark, and if we would have done this coming in from the road, it would have been over an 11-mile hike. Yikes. You guys, we are heading out to see the Rainbow Bridge, which is a national monument. It's like a wonder in the sandstone. So we're gonna walk that direction to check it out. We came from the water. One of the coolest spots that we get to first is something actually known as the Hanging Gardens. This is an area of high permeability in the sandstone, which allows water to seep in from above and escape through fractures in the sandstone. And there's enough nutrients in the water and in the sandstone for all of this vegetation to grow. It's like a little oasis in the desert. And there were quite a few of them here and there that we encountered along this trip. It also provided us some shade because the area was actually naturally very cooling. And believe it or not, the hike through this area was quite calming just because there was no sound of annoyances from our day-to-day life. I can't believe there's like trees and stuff back here. There's enough water seeping out of the rocks that's coming from up above because the rocks are so porous that each one of those layers has green stuff. There's enough shade and water and nutrients for that grass to grow there. That's pretty cool. Look at that. That's where we're coming from. We came from back there. Isn't this cool? It is hot today here. My gosh. Experiences like this one around the corner are one of the reasons why I became a geologist. Look at how amazing that is. Wow. Oh my gosh. Oh, look! We have a sign-in thing! The Rainbow Bridge is a natural arch in southern Utah. It's located at the foot of the Navajo Mountains. It spans over 275 feet. It has a height of 290 feet, and it's the largest natural arch in the world. At the top, it's 42 feet thick, and it's 33 feet wide. And it's primarily made up of Navajo sandstone. In case you can't tell, I'm thrilled. Now, after I ran around for a little bit, having fun with my new Insta360 camera to see if I could make some cool shots, we decided to walk to the next closer location to get a better view. With all joking aside, the Rainbow Bridge is actually considered to be a very sacred place by a few Native American tribes. Scientists said that the Rainbow Bridge was most likely carved during the last ice age through softer sandstone, leaving the more solidified, tougher sandstone of the Triassic and Jurassic making up the bridge, and then continued weathering through strong eddies of water flowing over and under the bridge until the river's water could no longer reach the arch. And it continues to be shaped by wind, sand, and water. If you ever get the opportunity to come out here and experience this wonder for yourself, please do so. Be respectful when you're on these grounds or anywhere in the wilderness. Pick up what you bring in, always bring plenty of water, and hike with other people. It's always your safest bet. If you are hiking alone, please tell somebody where you're going and how long you expect to be there and when you'll return. Now, after we left the bridge, we went into other different canyons so that we could see more of the formations. After we left the Rainbow Bridge, we went into different canyons to look at the other weathering patterns. Each canyon, sometimes miles away, has very distinct weathering patterns based on how the sand dune laid, how much clay was in the sand, and the water levels that have aggressively worn away at some of those layers, creating almost amphitheaters or holes in the rock like this one that have been carved straight from water just running down to create almost like a basketball hoop. And then some of these canyons got quite narrow, so much so that we had to push the boat away from the rock with our hands and feet in order to get out. We even had to back out of several of the canyons because they got so narrow going inside of them. But I'm so very grateful to Dave and Buffy for wanting to show us these beautiful, miraculous canyons and for risking his boat getting stuck somewhere just so that we could see their beauty. As you can see, I was taking full advantage of being on the boat with a camera in order to just I don't know, be mesmerized and honestly get a little bit dizzy from looking up at the tall walls of these canyons. Now, the last thing we look out just outside of Driftwood Canyon are known as the Miner's Stairs. These stairs were carved into the sandstone and they went down to Klondike Bar in the Colorado River in order to search for gold. And this was the end of our second day. Now, it's the 4th of July. We are only going to see 3 spots today. And the first one that we're going to go see is the very famous canyon in Lake Powell and the place the people drive to, which is Antelope Canyon. You can actually hike into this canyon from the water, or you can take a kayak down it, which is what we saw a lot of people doing as soon as we got into the canyon. Now, Antelope Canyon is the very special one where people go and they take those amazingly beautiful photos. And since I don't want to get any copyright strikes, I don't have any of those photos, so I have to come back and take that long hike. But I will say that coming in from water is just as spectacular as it would be walking in. And in this canyon specifically, I got to see amazing erosional features such as some awesome unconformities. In some of these areas, we are seeing angularly deposited sandstone, or basically a sand dune that had settled at the angle of repose, and then the top of it got swiped off or blown away, and time went missing. And then more sand or a different sand dune started depositing on top of that sand. And then eventually, both of them were solidified, creating the sandstone that we see today. And one of the angular unconformities is right here on the left and right side of our boat. As the daylight hits different areas, it's much easier to see these erosional features. This also shows the extreme bleaching of the sandstone, or leaching out of the iron to create white sandstone. Next, we're off to see Lone Rock. This is the rock to see in Lake Powell. It's a standalone, huge pinnacle of sedimentary rock that actually contains fossils from the Paleozoic and Mesozoic eras, roughly representing 300 million years of Earth's history. A couple years ago, from the Lone Rock campground at Lake Powell, you could actually walk all the way over to the rock when the water level was really low. But now that the water level is coming back up, it is once again an island. I am overly excited about this gigantic rock in the background, and even Dan's smiling too. It was a great way to spend the morning of the 4th of July. It also allowed us to see a different part of the lake, as well as the crazy shenanigans that were going on in the campground. Hundreds of people were camped along the shoreline for the 4th of July on Lake Powell. And apparently people were even trying to get stuck out there in the sand, which was very entertaining for us to watch for a minute. After all this nonsense, we take one last drive by to the dam. This dam is 710 feet tall and holds back one of the largest man-made reservoirs in the U.S. with a capacity of 25 million acre feet of water.
And then we went up here, Navajo Canyon. Up here, Labyrinth Canyon. Up and around here, and you go into Face Canyon. And then you go into West Canyon. And then we went up this way. And we skipped these because we wanted to really go up to
Cathedral. Oh, yep.
And then we ended up going into Cascade Canyon.
Oh, yeah.
Damn.
And then Driftwood. And we did do Rainbow.
Oh, we did
Rainbow Bridge,
yes,
yeah.
we did Rainbow Bridge. I forgot we did that. And then we come back down and ended up way back down here in
Bradley County.
So where are we
Antelope,
now?
Antelope Point.
Say Happy 4th of July on the count of 3, okay?
Okay.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Happy 4th of July! USA! USA!
Hey, Bailey. Yeah?
Baby pose.
USA!
Yeah, no.
You're gonna attack her
No.
with a stick.
I'm gonna kill it. She's so scared. With my awesome weekend coming to an end, we stop and we watch the sunset on July 4th of 2024. I give my biggest thanks to Dave and Buffy and their family for allowing Dan and I to come and bombard them on the 4th of July. Thank you so much, Dave and Buffy, for your amazing generosity.
You guys, thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed Lake Powell over the last couple days of boating around and seeing these amazing canyons and these sandstone structures. We're ending our trip right here at the awesome Rainbow Bridge. I hope you've enjoyed this and you've learned something and you've had some fun. Thank you so much again for joining me on this adventure, and I'll see you on the next one.